So, how long have you been? Actually, I guess first of all, what's your name?
My name is Oliver.
Oliver, and how old are you?
I am 19.
19? Okay. And what are you doing with your life right now? Are you going to school or working or what?
Yeah, I'm a student at the University of Washington.
Oh, nice. You're out in nature right now doing this? That's fucking rad.
Yeah, yeah, my house is a bit. Everyone's on work calls right now, so
Right.
I'm just getting out of there.
Okay, what are you going to school for?
Um, I'm not in a major yet because UW has competitive majors, which is kind of weird, but I want to go into either stats or data science.
Okay. And why did you decide to go into that?
You were kind of
Oh,
cutting out there,
sorry.
sorry.
So, why did you decide to get into statistics or data science?
Um, I don't really know. I just kind of like I never really thought a whole lot about what I wanted to do, but I realized at some point that a lot of what I was doing was stuff like looking at numbers and stuff, and I kind of liked seeing patterns and things. And then I took a stats class in high school, and the class itself wasn't great, but I really liked the content itself and found it really interesting. So I decided to try to pursue that.
Okay. Um, what were you like when you were 6 years old?
Mm. When I was six, I was very literal as a person. Like I would take everything people said pretty literally. I didn't really understand things like sarcasm and stuff. And then I was a good kid though. Like I always tried to like follow the rules and I didn't like disappointing people. I always tried to do the best I could at everything.
Okay. And what kinds of things were you doing?
I don't know. I just kind of liked doing what I was told in school and stuff and like hmm I liked math a lot back then too. Like I was really good at math and stuff.
What'd you do for fun?
What did I do for fun? At 6 years old, I liked watching TV and I liked playing little computer games and stuff. Some of them were educational, some of them were just kind of silly.
Okay. Um, how long have you been studying typology?
Um, I got into it last summer, soon
Okay.
after I graduated high school. Um, I didn't really learn about cognitive functions until a little while after that. I think I first heard about cognitive functions from Frank James.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I kind of got into that from there, and then I kind of fell down the rabbit hole all the way to here.
Okay, so you did a lot of your own research and stuff for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, do you think you have a pretty good idea of what type you might be, or are you stuck in between like two or three different ones?
Um, there's two that I'm fairly strongly considering. However, in the
Okay.
last sort of few weeks, through looking at a lot of Eric's videos, I'm kind of leaning pretty heavily towards one.
Okay. Um, you good over there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what were you like in middle school?
In middle school,
Yeah, did things change
mm,
much?
I was a lot shyer in middle school than I was when I was six.
Okay.
Like I was kind of awkward around people, and that was I don't know. I didn't like middle school at all. I thought all of my classes were boring. Uh,
Okay, so you said that in middle school you didn't like it. Your classes were boring. Were you treated poorly by other people? Like, did you do really badly socially speaking?
people liked me, but like I didn't really. I think a lot of my social struggle was a lot more internal than it was external. I don't think other people necessarily thought I was troubled or anything.
So what? You were just uh, highly judgmental of yourself. Were you judging yourself a lot? Would you say?
Yeah, I was.
Okay. So you were just really self conscious.
Yeah.
Um, so did you think that people were like looking at you and making fun of you and stuff like that, or
Not necessarily making fun of me. I definitely thought they were judging me pretty harshly on stuff, though,
okay?
at the time. Looking back on it, I don't think that's the case, but at the time, I definitely thought that.
So were you really bad at figuring out what people thought about you, like realistically?
I mean, I don't even know if I tried to figure it out. I think I was just very sort of self-conscious about it. Like I was aware that other people might have some kind of thoughts about me or
Right.
maybe not, but I didn't care. I was just kind of worst case scenario about it all the time.
Okay. Um, did you have any friends?
Yeah, I did. I had a few close friends mostly
A few close friends.
who
Okay.
I'd hang out with, but
And
no, I didn't have a lot.
what did you do with them?
We would hang out and talk about just kind of random stuff, talk about school. Sometimes we'd play video games. Sometimes we'd play like sports or something.
Okay. What kinds of video games do you like?
At the time, we would play things like Call of Duty, or sometimes we played like sports games like FIFA or something. But these days, I'm not gaming much. No.
Okay. Well, what do you do for fun these days?
Uh, well, right now there's not a whole lot going on because of the virus and stuff. So I spend a lot of time now just going on walks and stuff or running. Back before all the virus stuff started happening, I was I like watching soccer and I liked playing soccer and I like writing and I like the stuff I'm studying at school. I like statistics and stuff, and then I like psychology too.
Okay. Do you like music?
Music, I listen to music, but I'm not like fanatic about it. No.
Okay. Do you do anything like when you write? What is it like when you write? Do you do it consistently? What sort of stuff is it?
Uh, no, it's not all that consistent. So usually when I'm writing for fun, it's for soccer related stuff. So I would write, there's like blogs and stuff out there that I would write
Okay.
for just on my own time, what for whatever I felt like doing.
Okay.
Sometimes it would incorporate other stuff I was interested in, like statistics or something.
Um, are you good at getting people to like you if you want them to?
Mm, I would say in the long term, yes. In the moment, no. In the moment, I can screw up, but long term, I don't know. I mean, most people like me now. Like I
Well, I
never have
mean,
like
long
big
term
problems with
is
people.
long term is just a series of moments, isn't it?
Yes, I would say the aggregate of my moments in the long run usually end up being good enough where people
Okay.
respect me for being honest and like helpful and kind.
Okay. Is that a process that you pay close attention to?
Um, no, it's something that I'm kind of almost backtracking on. I was sort of trying to figure out, well, if I don't feel confident about my ability to sort of manage people in the moment, how come they still like me in the long run anyway? That's sort
Right.
of what I concluded must be the case.
Okay.
I must be over focusing on the bad moments. In the long run, I must do pretty well
Okay. Why do you think you focus on the bad moments more?
because I remember them. They sort of pop out in my memory. Like I can sometimes I can remember weird stuff that happened like 6 years ago that'll still make me be like, well, why did I do that?
Okay. When was the last time you went out to a restaurant to eat?
A restaurant?
Yeah.
It was probably a week before the virus shut down, or the virus shut everything down.
Okay.
And Washington shut down pretty early, so I think it was like early March.
Okay. And uh, do you remember something that happened there that's like fairly insignificant but wouldn't necessarily happen all the time? Like somebody dropped their fork and had to get a new one or something like that?
Mm, I don't remember a thing so much, but I remember what I was with my parents, and I remember what we were talking about. You want me to
Yeah, but what
elaborate
were
on
you
that?
talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about my roommate, and sort of, I don't know, I was kind of making fun of him a little bit about some of the weird stuff he did.
Okay. Um, are you good at figuring out, say, like, if you bought some piece of furniture that you had to assemble, would you be good at doing that?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
Uh, because I would try to figure it out myself before reading the instructions, and I would have to end up disassembling everything I did, go back and read the directions. And if I read the instructions, I'd be able to do it fine. But
Well, why wouldn't you
I
then?
would ignore that. I don't know, but I've done that before,
Okay.
and I don't know why. I don't have a good reason why.
All right. Are you generally technically good with physical things at all?
Uh, Compared to some people in my life, yes. Compared to everyone, definitely not.
Okay. So compare me to someone who's worse than you.
Um, so my mom will struggle to like find like search bars on her computer or something, or she won't be able to figure it out at all.
Okay.
Whereas I can usually figure that stuff out. I'm not the most efficient at figuring that kind of stuff out, but
Okay.
I'll be able to I'll be able to do it my own way, even if it's not.
Have you spent a lot of time messing around with like computers and technology and stuff like growing up?
No,
No?
no, not at all.
Okay.
That stuff just, I mean, it doesn't really interest me.
Really?
I don't care really how things work like that. I was never interested in mechanical stuff.
Okay. Interesting. Um, let's see. Do you read?
I don't really read books, but I read articles and stuff, or I'll read longer articles too. Like not just like news stuff, but I'll read like longer opinion pieces about why this thing is good or why this thing is bad, or what should we be doing as a species or something.
Okay, so would you say you're mostly into like nonfiction, realistic,
Yeah, I don't
concrete
really
sorts of
read
things?
fiction. No,
Okay.
I don't read much fiction.
Okay. Um, let's see here. Do you frequently change your mind a lot about stuff or find it hard to make decisions?
Yeah, I find it I find it almost crippling sometimes to make decisions about things. Like I don't like committing.
Well, does it matter how important it is, or could it be something like really just
Um,
non-essential?
the grander importance does matter. Yeah.
Okay. Um, do you tend to follow the same patterns every day? Like, do you go to sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time, eat the same thing for breakfast, or like what?
Yeah, pretty much. I have a fairly in a given time, depending on my circumstances, I have a fairly consistent routine. So when I was at school, I more or less ate at the same time every day, did my homework at more or less the same time, depending
Okay.
on, I mean, my classes weren't at the same time every day, so it would change a little bit. Since I've been here, it's been a little less consistent. I mean, I go to I go to bed and wake up at mostly the same times every day, but I'm not eating at the same time, and I'm not doing my schoolwork at the same time.
Okay. So it's context dependent,
Hmm.
but consistent. Um, do you frequently like to try new things? Like, do you like eating something you haven't eaten before, or doing something for fun that you haven't done before?
It kind of depends on the thing, but you typically, my general answer would be no,
Okay.
but I'd be more open to certain things than others.
Are you hesitant because you don't know what to expect?
Uh, I would say that's a pretty good explanation. Like if I know what's going to happen, then I'm more likely to commit to something new. If I have no idea what's going to happen, then I'm less likely to do so.
Okay. Do you find yourself watching like the same TV shows and movies and stuff over and over?
No,
No?
not really.
Okay. So you generally like to do more physical stuff, it sounds like. Um, you're good at math. I mean, so do you think you're generally good with numbers, or did you just take an interest in math?
I was way ahead of everyone else
Okay.
my age since I was like 5. I've
Interesting.
been
All right.
very good at math for a long time. I know that about myself.
Okay. These days, what's your social life like?
Um, it's not very active these
Well,
days.
obviously with the
Yeah,
coronavirus,
with the
but
virus.
other
Before
than
then,
that,
I have a few friends who I like to hang out with somewhat regularly, but
okay,
I can go a long time without needing to hang out around people
okay.
close to me.
Hmm. Do you prefer to ask somebody for help when you have a problem, or will you try to figure it out yourself, even if it takes like forever?
I try to figure it out myself.
Okay.
I'm bad about asking for help. Like there's times when I feel like looking back on it, oh, I should have clearly just asked for help. I would have saved myself an hour of time,
Okay.
but I don't do it for some reason because take pride in I take pride in sort of getting things right myself.
Okay. Do you see? Do you notice a lot of people just doing things wrong, and or in a stupid way, and does that bother you?
Hmm. I wouldn't say I tend to notice it a lot, but when I do notice it, it bothers me.
Okay. Can you give an example of that?
Mm, no,
Okay.
can't think of one right now.
Hmm. Are you into politics at all?
Yeah, I look into it a lot.
Okay. Have you ever gotten into a discussion about it with somebody and it like went south and like you had like a disagreement?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Do you always avoid that sort of thing happening?
I don't like conflict. Getting in. I don't like getting in weighted arguments. I actually like trivial arguments
Right.
about things that don't matter a whole lot, but
I
on
gotcha.
weighted arguments, I try not to argue.
Well, has that happened before though? Have you gotten into such a conflict?
I can't. Well, just about politics or just in general.
In general?
In general, yes.
When was the last time that happened? Like, can you describe it?
Mm. One time, my one of my friends and I, we got into a bit of an argument about. I mean, it was something. I don't even remember what it was over. It was a while ago, but it was over something fairly silly, like you said this, I said this, and it kind of boiled over into personal stuff. Where there was a
Okay.
whole bunch of larger disagreements aired out. I have a better example though,
Okay.
that I thought of that was a lot more recent. I was arguing with my brother. It started, we were outside. We were outside with some of the other kids in the neighborhood. This was 3 or 4 years ago now. And we were playing, I think we were playing kickball or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I got mad at him. So what caused me to snap is he started sort of taunting me about something. But he had been kind of being a bit of a dick to everyone around him for a while, and that caused me to sort of boil over and snap. I'm like, oh, you're always like this all the time. And he's like, no, I'm not. You're being way over dramatic about this. Stop being over dramatic. And I just kind of went off on him. And what was interesting is he sort of seemed to take it in stride and not really care, but I kind of sat on that and thought about it for a long time, and I still remember it. I don't know if he would even remember it.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm feeling like you're an ISFJ so far.
That was one of the two I was considering.
Okay. And what was the other one?
INTP.
Okay, yeah. That pretty good too to narrow it down to, because they're both introverts in the same quadra. But yeah, you seem to have like a much, basically your memory's good. That's not always the case, even if you're an SI Dom. But it is really good. It's accurate. It's detailed. But I think more importantly, it's like the specific things that you tend to remember, or the tens of things that you tend to be focused on, or like are activators in your life. And it seems to be way more of an FE thing than a TE thing for sure. It seems like you're tracking people's perceptions a lot of the time. I don't know if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, so on all of the TI stuff, like I've watched some of Eric's typing sessions. On all of the TI stuff, I'm really, really good and fast at that. So that's one thing that was leaning me more heavily toward INTP in the long run. And then I'm pretty sure, so I could be wrong about my mom's type. I'm pretty sure she's an ISFJ. And my NE on a lot of the NE test stuff, my NE is a lot stronger than hers, I would say.
Well, what do you mean?
So do you know any of, I'm assuming you know like Eric's NE tests and stuff, right? I'm usually able to come up with sort of better ideas for those, I guess, and more of them, and I'm able to do it more spontaneously, where my mom's a lot more like sort of hesitant, and she'll give you ideas. I don't think she's polar, but
she could be.
Yeah, she might. Because with my mom, she might be like an ISTP or something. I don't think she's an INTP because her NE's bad, but
right. Well, she could be like an ISFP or an ISTP. I don't know. What I'm looking for is not so much, can you engage a function on demand, but I'm trying to see if I can see them at work. I want to see those gears turning in your head in real time as I'm speaking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of when you get like a picture of your life, right? More extroverted intuition is going to lead you to do weirder, crazier things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you're going to be way more interested in like creative outlets and stuff. Like, I like being at like a music festival with laser lights and shit, where everybody's on drugs and wearing like super colorful clothes and shit, And I see all of your focuses in life are on realistic, concrete shit, and you have a very consistent interest in basically soccer. Which kind of leans me more toward you being a sensor, like especially SI.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I agree with that. That was one of the things that I had a big roadblock on INTP was, well, I do a lot of more SE shit.
It's not even SE shit, really. I see SI people are like to be more physically engaged. I usually with ISTJs tend to be more likely to actually exercise or do sports than ISFJs. Like ISFJs are more frequently couch potatoes, but that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, make no mistake, like your TI is good, as it can be in third slot by your age. Especially if you're a male and like other factors being considered. But SI and TI together on your introverted axis is going to be a pretty good powerhouse for like recalling facts and methodologies and shit like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess at the end of the day, I'm just trying to figure out like where your attention is most of the time, which I think is in SI and FE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
I'd consider maybe ISTJ, but I don't really see you being in that quadrant.
Yeah, I don't see myself as that at all.
Yeah.
I feel too self-conscious about FE stuff in general, which I don't tend to see from ISTJs at all. They might be sort of self-conscious about it in the sense that they are aware that they're blind to it, but
I mean, it seeps out in their whole demeanor, really. Like you have a much more laid back, friendly presentation. You're more talkative compared to like an ISTJ is. Like even though Eric will say like NE is the talking function, but it's not quite so simple because like both types will have NE in fourth slot, but it's really the FE in the second slot that's basically forcing you to be more verbal because you're being more social, basically.
So I guess one thing about that is in a real life situation, I don't tend to be very talkative at all.
Okay.
I tend to be fairly quiet, which
well,
I know other ISFJs, and they're the same way. So that doesn't. I'm not saying that precludes it or anything,
right.
but
well, I guess I'll put it this way: when I do this with an ISTJ, they really tend to give very short answers. They won't elaborate on stuff in the same way that you do. So like sometimes when I'm talking to certain types of people, it can get a little aggravating for me, to be honest, when they're not giving me the juice that I want. But you've been pretty good about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, ISFJs, I don't know, they're definitely not sociable people most of the time. Like, hell, my girl over there, she just doesn't like people. She says a lot of the time, but I don't think that's actually true.
Yeah, it's definitely not true for me. I like people a lot, but it's not.
Well, you don't really socialize if you have like a reason to do it. But most of the time, you do have a reason to do it because you want to.
I mean, for me, I wouldn't say that part's so true. I don't socialize a whole lot, even before the virus.
Right. Well, you obviously don't feel like you have anything to get out of it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like most of the time.
And that's why it's your tool.
That makes sense. Yeah, I see that for sure.
Yeah. So, are you good? Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I got to think through it for a second.
Okay.
So another reason I thought I might be INTP was I always sort of felt polar SE about stuff. Like I don't like committing to stuff in general. I really don't like committing to any long-term stuff that's going to take any sort of effort of my time. So how does that sort of play out in ISFJs, I guess? How does like fifth slot SE work?
So, trying to narrow it down here, are you saying that you're afraid of commitment, or you don't know if you're making the right decision, or
I tend to second guess myself a lot when I'm deciding things, and I don't like making decisions unless I absolutely have to, and I don't like doing stuff until the last. I don't know. I procrastinate pretty badly about things.
Okay.
Like I'm a procrastinator for sure.
Well, it's basically in a vacuum here. If you're leading with SI, then you're really going to only be confident making decisions when it's something that you're already familiar with. So I don't know if you think about it in that way. Does that make any more sense?
Not sure.
Because with any in the fourth slot, you're actually going to be essentially you're not going to be super good at predicting what is likely to happen when you don't have any individual experience with it, and that can make you afraid, of making a decision or of what the consequences might be. And that also ties into being afraid of having unfamiliar experiences.
Yeah.
So, like, this decision making is. It's not really a factor of SE. SE is more like the follow through that it takes to do something. So, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is it are you too lazy? Are you just afraid of making the wrong decision?
So for a lot of things that require a lot of sort of that follow through kind of stuff, like boring stuff to do, I really don't like doing that. Now, I assume no one really likes doing boring stuff. I don't know that.
No, nobody does. I mean, some people.
Things will put me off if I think there's going to be a lot of boring stuff to do. Like I never rearrange my room or anything because that would require me to move a whole bunch of books out, leave them out, and move my desk around, and then I don't know. I don't see any value in that.
Yeah. Well, do you have a routine of doing that already? Is it something that anybody ever made you do?
No.
I mean, there's going to be certain things that I'll see an ISFJ, for example, do, right? That a lot of people would be too lazy to do, right? But they do it very readily, almost like without even thinking about it, just because they're used to doing it, or because they're trying to be like a good host, or whatever the case may be. They're going to be tasks that may not feel like they're worth the energy, but because you do it already, or you're already used to doing it, then you're going to do it just fine. Even though most of the time they can be like really lazy about shit and just kind of want to sit around and watch TV or whatever. It's basically what I'm trying to get at is SE is basically SE and NI are like, okay, I've singled down the decision, I've singled down what's going to happen, right? And now that you know what's going to happen, right, the SE just does it. So what I'm trying to figure out is, are you tripped up at the point where you're trying to figure out which is the best course of action, or do you just not feel like doing anything?
I would say the second, much more than the first.
Okay. Now, what would motivate you to do something?
If there were going to be some kind of consequence to not doing it that would affect me long term, that would outweigh the sort of, I guess, short term benefit of like not doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have trouble figuring out like what you want or what you like?
Mm, I don't really know.
You ever thought about that?
I mean, I know I like soccer, and I know I like being outside, and I know I like doing this kind of stuff, like psychology, MBTI stuff,
Okay.
but I don't really know why.
Okay. Um, do you have days where you like don't actually move much at all? Like
Yeah,
you just like sit around all day. Like what do you do?
I'm probably either reading something online or watching videos.
Okay.
That's been several of my days the past few weeks, but even before that, I would do that sometimes.
Okay.
It's not too regularly. I try to exercise at least once every couple days, but
You try or you do it?
I try. I sometimes like forget or
Okay.
run out of time or have other things I need to do.
Well, I have observed in SE ignoring people that they can be extremely lazy, similarly to how SE polar people are often observed to be. Um, I'm trying to detail exactly how the nature of it is different. I guess I would say for me, with SE polar, I can freeze up tossing around options in my mind like it can happen like every half an hour in like a given day. Like I'll be thinking about the most inconsequential stuff, and I'll be like, and you'll literally see my body jerking around as I am still trying to decide whether I'm going to walk over here and do this or walk over there and do that. It's like this constant kind of confusion, indecision cloud.
Hmm. Yeah, I I can't think of a time that happening to me. So
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's
that
obviously it's not always going to be that bad, but it's really like a constant analytical process where you're like weighing different options of things all the time.
so it happens like with trivial things for you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'll get stuck on trivial things.
Yeah.
Usually at that point, I'll just like defer it to someone else.
Right.
Like if someone asks me what I want for dinner, I never know what I want for dinner.
Well, I can kind of relate to
Can't
that.
really control people.
Um,
But it's not so much of a, oh, I might want this, but I also might want this. I can't figure out which one I want. It's like I genuinely don't know what I want, and I can't give you, like, I couldn't tell you what I want.
well, I mean, a lot of the time I don't have much preferences for stuff anyway,
Yeah,
so that's not necessarily it, but it's
that's true. That too
yeah,
for me.
right. Um, but yeah, I mean, your overall picture is looking like an ISFJ to me. I mean, are you still confused or what? Or
I'm not so much confused. I would have had similar questions in different areas if you had told me I was INTP. So,
right, I
I
gotcha.
mean, I had areas of both of them where
Right.
I was not very sold on.
Is there anything that makes you think you're not an ISFJ? Definitely or glaringly?
So is being so what exactly does the tool function do? Like, do you value it at all?
It's something. It's it's valued. I would say in a realistic sense, most of the time people don't really care about it that much. Like an FE dominant person would be someone who is genuinely interested in like the human connection aspect of things. If SI is your lead function, then you're after something different. but you're going to be using extroverted feelings is going to be your primary means of leverage by which to accomplish what you want.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, essentially, as an SI dominant person, you're gonna see a much more like steady, like linear growth process. I would see like over the years, where like the more experiences you've tied together, like the more I guess impressive and the more you'll stand out. Um, like they tend to just collect large bodies of facts and experiences that are like synthesized into a general knowledge
Okay.
of like
Yeah.
how everything works.
Okay. Yeah, I see that in myself a lot.
Yeah.
The thing I was asking about FE is I tend to be pretty self-conscious about it, which I always kind of associated a bit more with like third or fourth slot, but I don't know.
Not necessarily. Like I can certainly relate to being like, I'd be like, I'd hear someone laughing off in the distance that I'd be like, oh my god, they're laughing at me, or like some weird stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
think maybe for me it tended to be a lot more like paranoid, like delusions kind of stuff going on. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if you had that kind of an experience.
Maybe in the moment sometimes I kind of feel that way, but then I'll look at it like an hour later and be like, I'm just being paranoid.
Right.
They weren't, they didn't even notice I was there.
So do you find it pretty easy to stay grounded in the long term like that?
I think so, yeah. I can get a little bit delusional about things at times, but I'll usually be like, oh, what was I thinking about? Or
Right.
what was going on with me?
I don't know. I being you got to turn it from being self conscious into just being aware of people's
Yeah,
perceptions.
yeah,
I think what can happen is you don't something can happen to basically cause you to be afraid to engage your tool function. Like maybe like you first started engaging it when you were like a little kid or something, and then like you had like some bad social experiences or something, and then over time I can see people, especially if they're introverts, especially right, they'll just stay away from people all the time. So you'll see some like ISFJs and INFJs that uh, end up not looking like the sociable people you might expect them to be, and kind of being trapped in their first and their third functions. Um, so, like an ISFJ who's reclusive can easily end up looking like an INTP superficially, for example. Um, but if I'm right, then you're actually really good at employing extroverted feeling as long as you're not like afraid of getting burned.
interesting. So, what does like fourth slot any look like? I guess.
It's usually used in like a really kind of like basic childish way. Like I see a lot of SI DOMs like they'll crack like a lot of lame jokes, or they'll have like kind of like a goofy sense of humor. Um, they tend to try to come off as sort of like goofy and funny and stuff. I see that with like third and fourth slot any a lot. Like higher up in the stack, it's used on a much more like uh, mental level, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's like projecting possibilities out in front of and around you all the time, kind of like I was trying to explain earlier. It's like it's in constant use rather than like used on demand, I guess, for like interpersonal interactions or maybe for entertainment purposes. I also see higher up any being used creatively, although obviously not necessarily, like in my case. But a lot of like any DOMs you'll see actually like, making music or writing
Yeah.
books or whatever the fuck they do. Um,
I guess.
Like, do you think yours might be higher than fourth slot?
Well, I thought it might be for a long time, and a lot of Eric's stuff had me kind of convinced it was, but I'm
I don't even think
willing to be
Eric.
wrong.
I don't even think Eric's in any dom anymore, to be perfectly honest.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think he is?
I think he could be an ISFJ as well.
Really?
Yeah. But he's definitely playing an ENTP. I mean, his ego is firmly rooted in whatever he perceives those functions to be.
Interesting.
Yeah. But
how strongly can you sort of convince yourself that you're a type that you're not, and then have that sort of play out in your character? Like, I mean, if you're right about Eric, then I mean that's fairly strong. I mean, I only see him on camera.
yeah,
I don't know what he's like off
right.
camera, so
That's the problem. But yeah, it's definitely possible. Trust me. A lot of these types, people can easily pick one and wear it if they want to. We're all just kind of playing in the sandbox here. But I'm doing the best job I can of trying to actually accurately discern like what somebody's core type is, although they may certainly demonstrate a lot of behavior that's associated with other types. So it can be difficult to figure out, which is why people come to people like me.
So not to like badmouth Eric or anything, but if he's self-typed himself wrong, does that mean he has some? Do you think he has some flaws in his model, or is his model correct and he's just applying it to himself poorly?
I don't know if there's any flaws in his model because, to be fair to him, I haven't actually read through his whole book. I'm almost certain that there are some flaws in it, although I can't say that for sure. But regardless of his actual model that he's put together, I mean, he could have just an incorrect self-perception of himself, but still have a perfectly valid model.
Yeah,
it's possible, and that's just to satisfy some TI anal bullshit because, that's one thing TI is really good for is just splitting hairs.
Yeah.
He has a lot of good points, though, like how he calls the introverted perceiving functions are knowledge functions.
Yeah.
And the extroverted judging functions are interface functions. I think they're good words for them. That kind of stuff.
Okay, so one more question that's on my mind is, what does sort of third slot TI look like? Like, Eric refers to it as like a payoff function. So does that mean I value being correct in myself, but I don't necessarily judge that on others? And do you agree? Do you agree with that?
Sometimes I would say, you're more likely to have, be more highly critical of yourself than others. The third slot function is like, it's important to your ego that you demonstrate proficiency in it. So like, if you were saying like a political discussion with somebody, it would feel really important to you not to have all your facts straight, right, and to not sound like an idiot in front of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Me, a lot of the time, I don't actually care if I look like an idiot in front of people. Like when you're leading with TI, like you couldn't care less what anybody else thinks about you as long as you know that you're right. It's like, so.
Well, I would say if I know that I'm right, I don't necessarily care that much about what people think about me.
Right.
But I'm not. I don't feel like I usually know that I'm right.
It's not something you want to be called out for, basically, in front of people. So
interesting.
So I would say, ironically, an ISFJ is going to be more likely to actually have their facts in order than an INTP is. INTPs more likely to actually be bullshitting and flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's like, I'll figure out what's right, one way or the other. Although when I was younger, I probably didn't have that mentality.
Yeah, I don't have any more questions.
Okay. I think we got about an hour now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what was your name again?
Oliver.
Oliver?
Yeah.
ISFJ, I suppose. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks for your business.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'll try to get this uploaded. I've got along with a couple others that I still have to upload.
Okay.
So, thank you. See you.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.